The phone rang just once before he answered, his voice calm, controlled, the voice that had ended arguments and lives without ever rising in volume. He was in the back of a moving car, city lights streaking past like tired stars. Then the maid's voice broke through the line, shaking, breathless, stripped of all respect and fear she usually carried. "Sir, please come home now. She'll destroy her." There was a crash in the background, something shattering, followed by a cry that did not belong to the maid. The Mafia boss closed his eyes for half a second. When he opened them, the world he ruled felt suddenly small. "I'm coming," he said. And when he walked into that house 20 minutes later, what he saw would shake the foundation of everything he believed about power, loyalty, and love. Alessandro Moretti had built his life on control. Control of the streets, of men twice his size, of deals whispered in smoke-filled rooms. He believed emotions were weaknesses that clever enemies exploited. The mansion on the hill was supposed to be his fortress, a place where nothing unexpected happened. He had filled it with silence, marble, and rules. Staff moved like shadows. No one raised their voice. No one asked questions, especially not about his wife. Elena Moretti had entered his life 5 years earlier like a quiet rain. She was not part of his world. She did not come from money or power. She was a schoolteacher who had once helped his injured nephew on the street without knowing who he was. Alessandro had married her quickly, partly to protect her, partly because she made him feel human in a way that terrified him. Over time, though, the walls between them grew. His enemies multiplied, his absences lengthened, his silences became colder, and Elena, alone in a palace that did not feel like home, began to disappear inside herself. The maid, Rosa, had watched it all. She was an older woman, practical and brave in quiet ways. She noticed the bruises Elena tried to hide with long sleeves. She heard the arguments behind closed doors, the kind where words were sharper than knives. She saw another woman begin to appear at the house, always confident, always smiling like she owned the place. Valeria. Valeria was not Alessandro's lover in the traditional sense. She was his consigliere's daughter, raised among men who believed fear was respect. She was clever, ambitious, and deeply resentful of Elena. To Valeria, Elena was a weakness wearing silk. And weaknesses, in Valeria's world, were meant to be crushed. On the night everything broke, Alessandro was supposed to be away until morning. Valeria arrived unannounced, dressed in black, heels clicking like gunshots against marble. Elena was in the library, reading, trying to steady her thoughts. Rosa heard the first raised voice and hurried toward the room, her heart pounding. Valeria accused Elena of manipulating Alessandro, of poisoning his judgment. Elena stood up, trembling but refusing to back down. Words turned to shouting. Shouting turned to cruelty. Valeria picked up a glass paperweight and smashed it against the wall inches from Elena's head. Shards rained down. Elena screamed, not in fear for herself, but in desperation. That was when Rosa ran, locked herself in the kitchen, and made the call that could cost her job or her life. When Alessandro arrived, the front doors were wide open. A vase lay shattered in the hall. He smelled blood before he saw it. In the library, Valeria stood rigid, breathing hard. Elena was on the floor, her hair disheveled, a thin line of blood at her temple. Rosa hovered over her, crying openly. For a moment, Alessandro could not move. This was not the chaos of street wars. This was something far worse. This was his home, broken by his absence. "What did you do?" he asked quietly. Valeria turned, ready with excuses, with explanations shaped to his world. But he did not listen. He crossed the room and knelt beside Elena. She looked up at him with eyes that held no accusation, only exhaustion. "I tried," she whispered. "I really tried to be strong." Something inside Alessandro cracked, not loudly, not dramatically. It cracked the way ice does when spring finally comes. Valeria was escorted out of the house that night, stripped of all authority, her connection severed with a single phone call. It sent shockwaves through the organization. Men whispered. Enemies watched closely. Some thought Alessandro had gone soft. But the real challenge had only begun. Elena did not recover quickly. She refused to sleep in the master bedroom. She flinched at raised voices. Alessandro, who knew how to command armies, did not know how to hold a woman who was afraid of him. Guilt became his constant companion. For the first time in decades, Alessandro stepped back from his empire. He delegated, postponed, withdrew. He sat with Elena during therapy sessions. He listened, truly listened, as she spoke about loneliness, fear, and the weight of loving a man surrounded by darkness. The threats came soon after. Rivals sensed weakness. Deals were challenged. A car bomb narrowly missed one of his lieutenants. Alessandro faced a choice that would define him. Return fully to the life that made him powerful, or change in a way that might cost him everything. Elena made the decision without knowing it. One evening, she stood on the balcony, watching the city below, and said, "I don't want to live in fear anymore. But I don't want to live without you either." Those words became Alessandro's new code. He dismantled parts of his operation, sold others, cut ties that could not exist without violence. It was not redemption, not fully. But it was a direction. Enemies did not forgive him. Some tried to kill him. He survived, not by brutality, but by strategy and unexpected alliances. Rosa stayed, promoted to house manager, respected by everyone. She had saved more than a life that night. She had saved a soul. Months later, the mansion felt different. Laughter returned, tentative but real. Elena planted a garden where marble statues once stood. Alessandro learned to come home before midnight. The scars did not vanish, but they softened. One evening, as the sun set over the city, Alessandro took Elena's hand and said, "I spent my life believing fear was strength. I was wrong." Elena squeezed his hand, her voice steady. "Real strength is choosing not to destroy, even when you can." Their story spread quietly, not as a legend of power, but as a reminder. Even in the darkest worlds, change is possible. Even the most feared man can be humbled by love. And sometimes, the bravest act is answering a trembling phone call and coming home before it is too late.